That's right. We still haven't done that.
We've recorded it all.
Right. I remember that.
But we haven't released it. So that's going to be the episode after that. And this is 3 episodes out now that we're recording now.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're ahead of the game.
I guess so.
I think that's the game. Is the game to release episodes on time?
I hope not. I think it's to record as many episodes without releasing any.
That
and then they
sense.
can release it after our deaths.
They could call it the Posthumous Podcast.
Oh, that sounds like a Lemony Snicket novel. I'm Tom Dickinson.
And I'm Louis Midas.
And this is the Cloister Room,
A podcast about Doctor Who and other things.
As our listener may or may not know, probably not, because I don't think we've explicitly said it in anything that's been released, we're going to be talking about Season 18 in order, starting from the first story, which is The Leisure Hive, and ending with the final story, which is Logopolis. That's correct, right? I have the facts right there?
That's most definitely the plan.
Good.
At least how I remember it. I mean, we could be both misremembering the plan, and in which case we will be doing something that we've not actually planned, but remember having planned, even though it's not what we actually had planned.
Right, and as long as it concords, then we're all set.
Right.
What did you think of The Leisure Hive?
It was kind of interesting.
Interesting is a good thing, I guess.
I mean, I liked it, but it was silly at points.
That's an interesting thing to say. Well, I think you're right. I think there is some silliness to it, especially with the mask issue.
Yeah, well, yeah.
The whole concept of the Fomasi guy being like resembling a human, and then you just take a mask off, and it's this completely non-humanoid shaped thing. Kind of Slovene-esque
yes.
there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, it seemed like there were kind of... Like, that whole sort of plot line with the Fomasi, like, impersonator, or impersonating a human, seemed kind of silly. Like, at the very end of, I guess it was, episode 3, they kind of reveal this, and it seemed, like, kind of sudden and kind of strange. I mean, I understand it, and it just seemed, I don't know, something about it seemed kind of silly.
Well, it was hinted at before.
Right, but it was still silly.
Yes.
I'm not saying it wasn't hinted at.
Okay, that's true. The fact that it was hinted at doesn't really make it any less silly. The interesting thing about that is that this season was a deliberate move away from some of the sillier storytelling of the previous season.
Okay.
The previous season, the script editor had been Douglas Adams, and the script editor is a position that still exists on the show today, but doesn't have quite the same role. The script editor really now is just like an editor for scripts.
Oh.
But the script editor back in the day sort of had more control over the tone and the direction of the series creatively.
Interesting. I mean, it's certain. I'm not saying that this entire episode or this entire serial was silly. I mean, there were parts that I found kind of morbid.
Yeah,
like the dude being ripped apart, basically. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say that this whole serial was silly by any means.
One of the major goals of the new script editor, who was Christopher Hamilton Bidmead.
Okay.
He has a sort of reputation for being a massive egotist.
Okay.
He wanted to sort of do away with some of the sillier stuff that had been in the show and the more lighthearted stuff, and introduce more science and drama.
There certainly seemed to be an abundance of science, or I don't know how science-y it actually was, but with tachyons and all that stuff.
Tachyons are a real thing.
No, I know they're a real thing.
But they're not explained in any way that's meaningful. I thought the way they were integrated into the story, it's just not done well at all.
True.
In my opinion.
No, they don't explain it at all. I don't know. It's it's there to drive the plot forward.
I'm still not really sure what a Tachyon image is.
Right.
Or why it's impressive to have people playing squash while flying around. There's a lot about the way the science is used in the story that just isn't explained.
Right. At
all.
But it was there, and it was kind of...
It was there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to just... Maybe the goal was, this will interest people in tachyons, and they'll go to their local library and pick up an encyclopedia and read up on these crazy tachyons and all they can do, and they would be inspired to learn more.
Well, that's interesting because that's very explicitly part of the original purpose behind Doctor Who.
Well, I knew Doctor Who was meant to be educational,
right? Like it was sort of meant to give an introduction to concepts and encourage people to go looking into them even more. Like a good recent example of this is apparently a lot of children became very interested in the history behind Pompeii after that episode aired. I don't know if you've been keeping up with the Doctor Who adventure game. I kind of haven't, but I'm aware that the new Doctor Who adventure game is the Gunpowder Plot.
Oh,
with Guy Fawkes and whatnot, and I've actually seen that the BBC have developed like classroom lesson plans around the game.
Huh. That's interesting.
So it's possible that that's one of the things that that they were hoping in the case of bringing more science into the story.
Well, I have to wonder if that worked. Probably not, but
yeah, probably not.
I guess young children could hope that they would be able to disconnect their arms from their bodies after having read a book about tachyons.
As all young children aspire to do.
Well, you know, who wouldn't? You could high-five yourself. I mean, you can high-five yourself to begin with.
It's called clapping. Yes.
Yeah. No. I don't know. You could probably do fun things. I was going to say you could play catch with yourself, but that's called juggling. I don't know. You know, I don't know. I'm sure there's things you could do. You could... Oh, you know what you could do is in nuclear missile silos, you could turn both keys at the same time.
It's true.
I don't know why children would aspire to do that.
If they had one of these tachyon machine thingies in the End of Time Part 2, the Doctor may have, I don't know. He could have, like, the real Doctor could have been outside the booth while the Tachyon Image Doctor was inside the booth.
Yeah. I'm sure the applications are endless, and that we are just scratching the surface of what tachyon images can, in fiction, do.
Right.
You know, good effort on their part to bring science into it, I guess.
Yeah, I'd say so. And I always like watching Doctor Who stories that focus on alien cultures as well.
Yes.
Because that's something we see so little of nowadays.
True.
And there are deliberate reasons for that because of, like, budget, and there are also creative reasons to, like, make it more accessible to people who aren't like Argo lids or whatever. Like, I mean,
right.
The majority of the viewing public is not. So
yeah, you know, they do have to target a specific demographic, and it's just not practical to go for the Argolans.
I found that they spent a whole lot of time talking about this tachyon generator, whatever thing, whether or not it works, whether or not it sometimes works, whether it's a fake. Whether you can really do the things that they're trying to do. And, you know, it's not like it's a difficult story to follow.
Right.
It's just that there comes a point where I'd rather hear, like, I'd rather see more of, like, Tom Baker doing Tom Baker things than hearing these people talk about tachyons.
Right. I guess this is part of a continuing story that I don't really know, but what was the... They're talking about, like, the black...
Oh, that's true.
What was it? The Black
Guardian.
The Black Guardian, right.
Yeah, that's a reference to, I guess that would be season 16, I think. Season 16 was the Key to Time season, which was a season-long story arc where they were trying to find all of the pieces of the Key to Time, and before the Black Guardian can or something, and at the end there's this big showdown with the Black Guardian, and the Doctor fits the TARDIS with a randomizer that will allow them to avoid the Black Guardian, because if they don't even know where they're going to go, how could the Black Guardian possibly know?
Right.
And so throughout the entirety of season 17, the randomizer is active on the TARDIS, and they're just going places at random.
Oh, I gotcha. How about that?
And then they end that here.
Oh, okay. So wait. I was gonna ask how the key to time thing turned out, but I like, did they find it?
I didn't like it very much. How did it turn out? I thought it was kind of a lame season.
Okay, then.
No, they you can watch that season.
I'm sure
later.
I'm sure that
maybe one day we will.
Hey, yeah.
If we keep doing this podcast forever, we're eventually going to run out of Doctor Who to watch. So,
true.
Even though they keep making more of it,
they do. Well, we could always slow down our episode releases to even slower than they are right now.
No, we couldn't. That would be very difficult. Another interesting thing about... Well, this isn't really an interesting thing about this story. Have you watched Look Around You?
Oh, yes. Oh, okay. Because I thought I heard the guy's voice.
Yeah, he's the... What's his name? The scientist.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Who works with Romana.
Yeah, okay.
Hardin.
Yeah, I thought I recognized his voice.
The funny thing is, this was the third time I've seen this story, and I had never drawn the connection before. I think what did it for me is there's this one part where he's off screen talking.
Yeah.
Very early in the episode where they're showing the image of the old woman.
Yes.
Yeah, and, and he's describing what's going on, and maybe that added to the feeling of silliness in this episode for you.
Maybe it did. It was a subconscious parallel to Look Around You.
Write that down in your copybook now.
Yes.
Interesting little fact.
Oh.
This is actually sort of a fact that we're going to be observing as we watch this season. Most Doctor Who stories in the classic series, as you know, sort of don't have any kind of arc between the stories. You can really just watch one, and there aren't very many references to things that happened before or after. But
right.
every serial from the Leisure Hive through the Five Doctors sort of like directly refers to the one before.
Ooh.
Not in a sense, like there really isn't much of an arc, like a story arc. Like there's a big bad at the end, but they will refer to things that just happened.
Huh. Interesting.
Kind of like, the Shakespeare Code with the TARDIS getting shot by the arrows, and then in the next episode,
right.
which is Gridlock, you have the Doctor pulling the arrows out of the TARDIS, that kind of thing.
Yes, I do remember that. That's interesting. I kind of like seeing a continuity between episodes.
Yeah, because there really is very little in the classic series, aside from the fact that they're all like multi-part stories.
Right.
But when you come for part one of a story, you're pretty much, you might as well just be starting a new season.
Right.
It is a nice little touch to have a feeling of continuity.
Mm-hmm. But do you suppose that's what their goal might be for the next season of Doctor Who, to make it more like the classic series then?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know how well that would work with today's audience. But it would be interesting to see.
Imagine if they went back to half-hour episodes.
Ooh, that would be interesting. You think they would do every episode would be multi-part though, or every?
Well, if they were to do that, then I'm sure that's how they'd handle it.
Yeah, because
the Sarah Jane Adventures is completely like every story is 2 parts and it's half-hour episodes.
Right. So they show like 1 part every week, or do they do 2 parts?
It's been scheduled differently every year, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think what they were doing for a while is they were showing 2 episodes a week.
Okay.
And that's actually, for a while, Doctor Who was shown 2 episodes a week in the classic series.
Oh, really?
I think during the Davison era.
Huh.
So yeah, like if there was a 4-part story, you'd see it over the course of 2 weeks.
I kind of like that system.
Yeah, if you're going to do half-hour episodes, I think that makes it better. But yeah, I honestly I don't think I'd want them to do half-hour episodes again.
Well, no.
I'm just kind of trying to picture in my head what a Matt Smith half-hour episode 4-parter would be like. It'd be kind of I don't know. Doesn't really matter that much, I guess.
It seems like, and this is just something that I've gotten used to watching the classic series, is it seems, well, I feel like I'm stating like an original observation, but I'm pretty sure this is common knowledge, that it sort of moves slower. Classic episodes move slower.
Definitely.
I'd actually be interested to see if you could edit a classic episode or classic serial down to like 45 minutes and have it play almost like a New Who episode. And I think that would be interesting.
It would be. And you know what, now that you bring that up, I think that's probably part of the reason we don't spend a lot of time with alien cultures in the new series. You get sort of pretty deep into the history of Argolis and their culture and sort of the psychology there and the problems they're facing. And with a slow pace, you kind of have room to spread out and really dig into those ideas. Like
right.
in the new series, if they did this, it would probably be a one-part episode, and you really wouldn't get any of that.
Right.
You get only a very surface impression, which is one of the reasons that a lot of people prefer the classic series to the new series.
Huh.
And I think it definitely is one of the benefits to the classic format.
Right. You know, I guess what we see most commonly in the new series, if it's not set on present-day Earth, it will largely focus on humans who like in the future, who have since migrated out like to the stars and sort of expanded out there. So there's kind of like a common root, I guess, to the culture, but then they can sort of build off of that. Like I don't know why, but I'm thinking in particular of The Doctor's Daughter, where they're like sort of terraforming a planet, and you know there's a war that has been going on for generations. And that's sort of a history kind of type dealy, but it's based on humans primarily.
And it's not a very in-depth history. We're just like, there's a war that's been going on for generations. See, here's a bunch of soldiers. And that's really all there is to it.
Right.
And not that there's anything wrong with that in particular, because that's definitely sort of necessary to the newer style of storytelling in Doctor Who. But that's one of the things I do enjoy in the classic series. At first it was an impediment, because it is very, very slow. And one of the things that a lot of people will point out is that you can sort of identify which episodes tend to be the fast-paced ones and the slow-paced ones. Like, usually by episode 3, everything's really, really starting to drag if it's a 4-parter.
Right.
Like, most of the story will tend to take place in sort of the beginning and the end, and then the middle is often just, like, being captured and escaping and being captured and escaping.
Right. Yeah. Actually, I don't know if this is necessarily true. I'd have to go back and rewatch it, but I'm thinking of Genesis of the Daleks, where people keep getting captured and stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely true, but I think in Genesis of the Daleks, it does work pretty well.
It does, actually. And, well, that's even a 6-parter, right?
Yeah, it's a 6-parter, and I think you get a really good sense of the characters in Genesis of the Daleks, too. Like, you got the Davros, you got the Niter, you got the, what's his name, the sort of snotty...
Clearly very memorable.
Well, yeah, the snotty, youngish one who looks like he's smelling poo all the time. That
right,
guy.
I know what you mean.
And the sympathetic older scientist. And
right. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think it works well there. On the opposite of that, I'm thinking of the Happiness Patrol, where we had only 3 episodes, and it seemed... Actually, interestingly, that sort of ties in with what you're saying about sort of not fully exploring the culture or whatever, because there were those underground people in that serial that we didn't really explore at all.
Right.
And so that's actually further evidence, I would say, that reducing the number of episodes, or reducing the space in which you're telling the story, sort of tends to also cause things to be left out, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm giving a very long-winded agreement.
That's good. So have we said all there is to say? Or?
I think so.
Oh, you know what we should mention?
Oh, what?
The really long shot of the beach at the beginning.
Yeah, that went on for like 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's a very, very often talked about shot in Doctor Who.
Okay.
I'm not sure how interesting it is to talk about, but it's so unusual that you kind of gotta point it out and say, hey, there's this really unusual way of starting the season.
Yeah, I was curious about that. Just because it went on for so very long.
You know, particularly, it's interesting because the theme song was redone for this season.
Right.
So the theme song that you're hearing, if you're watching Doctor Who, you don't have like the internet and stuff, so you don't know the theme song's being redone. You haven't been reading tweets about, oh, there's going to be a new version of the theme song. So you sit down to watch Doctor Who, there's this completely new theme song, you're like, what's going on? And then there's a 2-minute long pan across a beach.
Yeah, huh. If I were in that situation, I would have seriously thought I had awoken in some parallel universe in which Doctor Who was a completely different show. that mostly concerned, deserted beaches.
He's even got a different costume.
Oh, right.
He's got a completely different scarf and sort of a very different color scheme, more purpley.
So it was. This was a parallel universe season.
Yeah, it might have been part of the desire to differentiate itself from the previous season on the part of both Christopher Hamilton Bidmead and the producer John Nathan Turner, who came on as the producer of Doctor Who, starting with this season and then stayed till the end.
Oh, wow.
This is the beginning of the John Nathan Turner era.
Ah, I see. Huh. Yeah, actually, funny though, that shot went on for so long, this was another thing that I thought was actually kind of silly. Like, why is this happening? And, but it's interesting they're trying to get away from silliness. It was more, like, absurdist, if anything. So, I guess that's different.
A little bit, yeah. It's, sort of a desolate scene.
Yeah, true.
It's, like, not a beach bustling with activity. It's like a dead beach.
Right. Well, they certainly got that across.
Yeah, it's again with the morbidity.
Yes.
In fact, that whole opening scene where Romana throws the ball and then K9 goes chasing after it, and then the camera pans around and like she's like K9, and it's like I don't know, like it's ridiculously over dramatized.
Right. I found that humorous, which was probably not the intention, but I did.